All right, so I get this. Today we're diving into a story that's less about once upon a time and more about what does it all mean, you know?
I like that.
Yeah, it's a journey into one of those tales by Rabbi נחman of Breslov. He was like a master at packing huge ideas into stories that seem really simple on the surface.
Right, like he's giving us a treasure map, but it leads to self-discovery instead of like gold or something.
Exactly. Okay, so picture this. We have a king totally devoted to his daughter, his only child, and one day, in a moment of anger, he accidentally curses her, and boom, she
Oh,
vanishes.
wow.
Yeah, it's not just any disappearing act, though.
Oh,
Okay, so the king's second in command, this guy is fiercely loyal and maybe feeling a little responsible, vows to find her. What jumps out at you about this setup?
hmm. Well, the king's curse, even though it was unintentional, it's like a really strong starting point, you know? It kind of suggests that even our words, especially when we're angry or speaking without thinking, can have consequences we don't see coming.
It's like a warning right from the beginning, like, be careful what you say, even if you don't mean it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, this second in command, he sets off into this huge, desolate wilderness. And after what seems like forever, he stumbles upon this incredible fortress. It's bustling with guards and everything.
Okay.
But here's the thing, no one stops him. Nobody even, asks him what he's doing there. It's super eerie, almost like he's dreaming.
Huh. That's interesting. It's like the first clue that this isn't your typical damsel in distress kind of story, you know?
Yeah.
The dreamlike quality could be a symbol for moving into a different realm, maybe a spiritual journey or going deep into the subconscious.
I see what you mean. Okay, so what's waiting for him inside? He finds the princess living in total luxury with another king, and she seems to have no idea who she really is.
Wow.
Yeah, she explains that she's actually a prisoner. She's trapped in this place that is not good. It's her word. If you had to imagine your own place that is not good, what would it be like?
That's a good question. It's like the story's getting personal now, you know? It makes us look at those parts of our own lives where maybe we're settling for something that seems comfy on the surface, but deep down we feel kind of empty or uneasy.
Yeah, it's like those times when everything looks perfect from the outside, but something just feels wrong.
Exactly.
So the princess, she tells the second in command exactly how to rescue her. It's very specific. He has to find a place to stay there for a whole year and just constantly yearn for her to come back. And then on the very last day of that year, he has to fast and stay awake the entire time, no sleep.
Wow, those instructions are so interesting. They seem almost ritualistic,
Mhm.
you know? What do you make of this whole year of yearning thing?
I don't think it's just about missing someone. It feels way more intense, you know? It's like a focused longing, almost a spiritual practice or a kind of meditation.
Yeah, I think you're right. It could be about reaching a certain state of mind, a really deep inner yearning that you need to break free from this place that is not good.
Hmm.
It makes me wonder, could rescuing her also be about the second in command changing on the inside, you know, transforming himself?
That's a great point. Okay, so our hero, he's determined to do this right. He finds a secluded spot and spends the whole year focused on rescuing the princess. But as that final day gets closer, the day he has to fast and stay awake, he comes across a tree filled with the most amazing apples you can imagine, and, well, his stomach starts rumbling.
Oh, no.
It's that classic battle between what we know we should do and what just feels good right now.
Right, and the consequences of giving in can be huge in this case.
Yeah.
That one apple makes him fall asleep for a whole year. He totally misses his chance.
And get this, when he finally wakes up, he finds his loyal servant who's been living off fruit from that very same apple tree the whole time.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but there's a bigger lesson there too, right?
Yeah, for sure. It shows how sneaky temptation can be. Something that seems harmless or even good for you can end up holding you back, even if you don't realize it at first.
It's like a reminder to pay attention even to the small choices we make. They can have a ripple effect, you know?
Definitely.
So the princess, when she hears what happened, she's devastated, and she warns him that the next time he tries, it'll be even harder. The temptations will be stronger.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, her warning really shows how challenging this journey is. Each step you take means facing tougher obstacles and needing even more strength and self-awareness.
It's like she's getting him ready to go deeper into his own inner wilderness.
Exactly. So we've got a king's curse, a disappearing princess, a loyal second in command, a place that is not good, and a year of yearning gone wrong.
And the real journey's just starting.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into this story and see what happens next.
So we left off with our guy facing a pretty big setback. His own weakness, you know, cost him a whole year. But the princess warned him things are going to get even tougher.
Yeah, it's like when you fail that first level in a video game and you realize, oh man, it's only going to get harder from here. But he doesn't give up. He tries again, spends another year in that deep yearning the princess talked about. But this time, as he's getting close to the fortress, bam, he's hit with another temptation. There's this spring, it looks like it's flowing with the most amazing wine. And remember, he's been fasting, so that thirst must be unreal.
It's such a clever setup.
Yeah.
The first temptation was just basic hunger, right? Like something primal. But this time it's more refined. It's messing with his desire for pleasure, for a little bit of comfort after this harsh journey.
Yeah, it's like the story is saying, hey, temptations get more sophisticated as you go along. They're going to target your specific weaknesses.
Right.
And sadly, he falls for it again. That one sip knocks him out. This time, it's not just a year, it's 70 years. What do you think about that huge jump?
70 years, it's almost biblical.
Yeah.
Like a whole lifetime passes him by.
Mm.
It makes me think about how these choices can build on each other each time we give in. It gets harder to resist the next time, and the consequences get worse.
It's like with every failure, we're digging ourselves deeper into that place that is not good. And speaking of which, when he finally wakes up, the princess is there, but not in the way he was hoping for.
This part is really sad. She's not there to be rescued. She's there to tell him how heartbroken she is and to reveal something important. She tells him that fancy fortress wasn't her real prison at all. She's actually being held captive in a mountain of gold and a fortress of pearls.
Those images are so powerful. What do they make you think of?
Well, they point to a specific kind of trap. Not just any prison, but one made of riches. It suggests she's not being held by force, but by something sneakier. The pull of wealth status, maybe even the distractions of a life focused on material stuff. Could this be what the place that is not good really is?
It reminds me of those times when I've chased after something that seemed shiny and amazing only to realize later it was actually holding me back from what truly mattered.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. The story doesn't say wealth or pleasure are bad. It's more about seeing how they can become prisons if we're not careful, if they distract us from our true purpose.
So the princess, before she disappears again, she leaves him with her handkerchief. It's soaked with tears, and it points the way to her real prison. Our second in command is now driven by love and guilt, and the story takes us to a place that's even wilder, more desolate than before.
This change in scenery is important. It's like he's finally entering the true wilderness, not just physically, but inside himself too. All the illusions are gone. And he's facing this rawness that reflects the state of his own soul.
And in this stark, empty landscape, he meets these three giant figures, each one carrying something incredible. There's a tree that reaches the sky, a bird cage filled with every kind of bird you can imagine, and a container that holds all the winds of the world. It's like he's stepped into a myth or a dream.
These giants are fascinating. They represent these forces that are beyond what we can understand. They're like guardians of nature's most basic elements, animals, birds, and wind.
And every single one of them questions whether the mountain of gold and the fortress of pearls even exist. They tell him it's a fool's errand, a fantasy. It's like they represent those doubts we all have when we're trying to achieve something difficult.
But here's the key thing. Our second in command, even though he's messed up before and these giants are doubting him, he doesn't waver. He holds on to his belief in what the princess told him. It's this unwavering faith, this refusal to be swayed by doubt that lets him keep going. Have you ever felt that kind of unshakable belief in something, even when people questioned you?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's those times when you just know something deep down, even if you can't explain it, and it's that feeling that keeps you going, even when it's tough.
Absolutely. And in the story, it's that faith that leads into the information he needs. It's the very last wind to arrive, the one that was delayed because it had to carry the princess to her new prison that confirms the mountain of gold and the fortress of pearls are real, and even tells him where they are.
It's like the thing that seemed to be working against him was actually part of his success all along.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example of how even obstacles and setbacks can serve a bigger purpose. Even if we don't get it at the time, there's a feeling of destiny unfolding a plan we might not only see, but we can learn to trust.
And the third giant, he's impressed by our guy's persistence, so he gives him this magical purse that produces an endless supply of money and tells the wind to take him to the princess's prison. It's like getting a cheat code for the hardest level of the game.
It's an interesting twist, right? It could be a reward for his perseverance, or maybe it's a way of removing the problem of limited resources so he can just focus on the task at hand. It makes you wonder, what cheat codes do we get in our own lives that help us focus on what really matters?
And how do we recognize those moments of grace, those unexpected things that help us along the way? But okay, back to the story. Our hero gets to the city gates, and there are guards who won't let him in. But remember that magic purse? He uses it to bribe them so we can get into the city, and that's where the story leaves us, right at the edge of the final showdown.
It's such a cliffhanger. We don't get to see how the rescue actually happens. What do you think about this sudden ending? Why do you think Rabbi Nachman left it open like that?
It feels intentional, like he wants us to imagine the final confrontation, the strategies, the emotions. It's almost like he's saying the journey is what matters most, the transformation that happens along the way, and the ending is something each of us has to discover for ourselves.
I think you're right. It's about taking those lessons of perseverance, faith, and self-awareness and using them in our own lives with our own mountains of gold and fortresses of pearls.
So we've traveled through this wilderness of temptation, met mythical giants, and seen incredible determination. But the big question remains, did he actually save the princess? And if so, how? Stay tuned as we wrap up our deep dive into this amazing tale and explore what it all means for us today. So we're back, and we've been on this wild journey with the second in command, seen him go through so much, but we still don't know for sure, did he actually rescue the princess?
Yeah, it's a really powerful choice by Rabbi Nachman to not show us that final scene, almost like he's saying the how doesn't really matter. The true rescue, the lasting change, it's already happened inside the second in command.
That's hitting home for me. Think about it. We've seen him fight off temptation, doubt, even those giant figures representing things he can't even fully grasp. He can't even fully grasp. He could have quit at any point, but something kept him moving forward.
Exactly. And that something is worth thinking about. It wasn't just loyalty to the king, right? There was this deep love for the princess, this belief that she was worth all the struggle.
Yeah, it makes me think of times when I've had to really dig deep for that kind of unwavering belief. Maybe it's a project everyone thinks is crazy or a personal goal that seems impossible. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely had times when I was so absorbed in research, everyone thought I dropped off the face of the earth. But that conviction, that sense of being on the right path, even if it's weird,
Yeah.
it can be so strong.
Like an inner compass guiding you even when the outside world doesn't get it. And in the story, it's that compass that's brought the second in command right to the princess's prison. He's got the way to get in thanks to that magic purse.
That purse is interesting, isn't it? On the one hand, it could symbolize those times when we get unexpected help resources we didn't know we had. But it could also be a reminder that even with all that abundance, the real battle is inside us.
Right, because even if he frees her physically, what about those mountains of gold, those fortresses of pearls? They represent those deeper traps, the ones inside her and maybe in all of us.
That's what makes this story so brilliant. It's not just a quest with a happy ending. It's about that constant inner work we all have to do.
So let's bring this back to our listener today. What do you think Rabbi Nachman wants us to take away from all of this?
I think he's asking us to look at those places that are not good in our own lives. What are those things that seem so tempting, so comfortable, but might actually be keeping us from real happiness, from that deep connection we crave?
It's like he's saying, don't just focus on the outward rescue. Look inside what needs to be set free within you.
And even more importantly, what's the driving force that keeps you going? What's your version of that love for the princess? That unwavering belief that something better is out there, even when it's tough to see?
Wow, that's a really powerful question to think about. This has been an amazing deep dive. I love how a story that seems so simple can be so deep. It reminds us that wisdom can pop up in the most unexpected places.
For sure. And it's often the stories that leave us with more questions than answers that stick with us the most.
Well, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas and maybe even inspired you to start your own quest for inner freedom.